Hello and welcome to Life Daily with Dawn. During the first 12 days of April, I've been guided to share with you a video series that I'm calling Diamond Dimensions. And we're going to, at the beginning of each of these videos, I will leave this introduction. So if you are watching this and have already seen the introduction, you can look below for the timestamps or just skip forward to the new content for each day. So what is this series about? In this series, we're going to be discussing 12 facets of change and how we will be changed forever as one common family of humanity in the passage through the next 7 years, 2020 through 2027. Now, this series is a preparation, and yet whenever it is that you come across it, trust that timing and that there is something here for you, because we all are undergoing this process of transformation on an individual level and a collective level broadly, globally, and then within various communities of belonging, the timing may be slightly different. So I will be discussing it in terms of this 7-year period, but just know that this is appropriate at any point that you might encounter it, and there's probably something here for you. So these 12 patterns of potential, or these 12 facets of change, are gateways to our collective soul story, how we see ourselves, who we see ourselves as in terms of humanity, and where we are acknowledging those the ways that we are co-creating a tapestry of timeless truths and weaving the world together. So the 12 patterns of potential, or the 12 facets of change, are both a collective clearing and a reset. They're revealed fully as we allow that the play of light, of God or spirit, life, and the flow of light and life and love through us. When we allow that to move through us and be revealed fully, individually and collectively, when we have cycled through them through this 7-year period or in our own timing, they will allow, they being the 12 dimensions and the 12 facets of change, those will support us and will allow for us to step into the creation of a new society, and they will help us to find a whole new way forward together as we step into a new era rich in love. So to discuss these 12 patterns of potential, I'm going to share 12 C symbols. C, S-E-A, stands for Soul Essence Art. I'm not going to take the time to go into all of that here, but you can get a brief overview of what Soul Essence Art is in terms of the intuitive creative process that I developed for myself by taking a look at my art website at dawnrichersonart.com. I'll put the link below. But these 12 C symbols were given to me around the 15th of March as a way to support us collectively as we can connect with these 12 points of change and anchor in the light that we are, preparing for the collective transition ahead. So this is a common way that Spirit communicates with me, often giving me anchor points, if you will, either in terms of these symbols, as it was in this case, or through various what I call seeds for life, or little connecting points that I then am able to interpret and share with you. And I don't interpret these until I'm sharing them with you, so I really have no plan yet of what I'm going to say during these 12 days. I just trust Spirit to guide me each day. So what I know is that there is a much broader message here for us collectively. And this is a really pivotal time, a very exciting time, although so much appears to be and is in fact collapsing. And that must happen so that we can create this new society and create what some would call the new earth, and step into a whole new way of seeing ourselves, a whole new way of being ourselves, and a whole new way of freeing ourselves. And that, again, happens individually and collectively. So in terms of the C symbols themselves, if you want, to kind of get another version or experience of how that works for me, you can take a look at my book, Energetic Perspectives, which is available on Amazon. And that's actually a really good resource right now because it's a soul activation coloring book or activity book with just very, very simple C symbols that were given to me back in, I believe, 2014, 15, somewhere around there. And that will help you to connect individually to the light and the life and the love you are at your core through the clearing of energetic blocks or patterns that are not of life, that do not support you as you come to life and live in full expression, but rather have blocked some aspect of growth and change for you. So in terms of this video series, though, we're going to be looking at these 12 C symbols, and those are the portals to the larger patterns of potentiality that are emerging now in these 7 years ahead. During the first 5 days of our series, we are looking at the interior star of wonder. Now, STAR is another acronym that I use for your soul's truth and radiance. And this star shape in the center of the diagram that you can see at the beginning of these videos, within this larger star shape that is the central wheel of the image of the 12 dimensions, are 5 points that are also 5 wheels. I'm going to talk about them in terms of 5 wheels, even though they're not depicted that way on the diagram. It was getting a little complex, and so I wanted to keep it simple. But these wheels, these are 5 wheels within a wheel that are now in motion in this 7-year period, and they will move us into greater meaning and movement and forward momentum as we navigate what I call the Great Return, and this awakening, this collective transformation that we are undergoing right now. This great return, it's a return to wholeness, and that happens again individually and collectively. And this great return is a remembrance that at our collective core, at the core of humanity and what it means to be human, is light and life and love. And for many, many thousands of years, that we have not seen that, perhaps longer. And instead, we have operated from a different paradigm, and it has led us to decay and disillusionment and disunity, I would say. And so it's a reclamation, a radical reclamation and a radiant realization. It's a radical reclamation of who we are collectively together on the way, and a radiant realization of and a new awakening to what can be and where it is we are headed and what we each have to offer and what collectively we want to give birth to in this new era rich in love. So the turning of these 5 wheels will set us on a new trajectory that again it's what some refer to as New Earth, and it's, however you look at it, it's a new experience, a new human experience. Again, a whole new way of seeing ourselves, a whole new way of being ourselves together on the way, and a whole new way of freeing ourselves in the whole of humanity. So one thing is certain, by the close of 2020, the first year in the 7-year cycle, and certainly by 2027, the culmination of the 7-year cycle, we are going to see how humanity itself will be changed forever. I'm going to save the details of this for our last 7 days during this 12-day series, but we're going to take a look at the 7 wonders of the soul: faith, hope, love, healing, growth, passion, and beauty, and those how those relate to the last 7 dimensions of change or expansion. It's also about radiant expansion from within the soul of humanity. So in terms of the first 5 days and that star of wonder, in the center of this larger diamond experience, these diamond dimensions that are held together as one, in the center of the 7 years, to prepare us for the 7-year transition, are these 5 wheels within a wheel, the 5-pointed star of wonder. And again, that represents our true power as one people, our soul's truth and radiance, the soul of humanity that resides at the very core, at the very heart of humanity, and humanity being filled with every good and perfect gift streaming down from the Father of Lights, from the the great creator, from life itself. If you're not, a person of faith or religion, that's fine. From life itself, it is the very substrate of who we are. And that is the structure on which this new era, rich in love, will be built. So within the center of the star are the 5 wheels in motion. And the way I see them is it's not just a flat in motion rotating, it's that, but also the spinning sphere. So they're spherical, not just flat wheels. These wheels within a wheel represent the turning of the tides of time. And the turning toward, it's a turning back to the sacred wholeness of who we are together. And it is a turning forward as well, from the moment of the now toward, again, this new era rich in love. So the 5 wheels we'll be looking at are the wheel of reordering, the wheel of restructuring, the wheel of remembering, the wheel of recreation, and the wheel of radiance. Good morning and welcome back. So today we are looking at the second of the 5 wheels within the wheel, and we're looking at the wheel of restructuring. Now, if I look at the wheel of restructuring with the other 4 of the 5 wheels within the wheel, it is very different than the other 4. The other 4 are all very mandala-like, they're circular. There's a clear rotation to them, but the wheel of restructuring, as I was shown it, was meant to be exactly what it is. It's very, to me, it feels very masculine, right? When I look at it, I think metal, I think wrenches, and, I think like the industrial era, or, people constructing something, and particularly building a metal framework, which does not at all seem like where we're headed. And yet there is something unique about this particular of the diamond dimensions, and this particular C symbol is what I meant there. And when I look at this, so I see, that's my first impression is, to see the masculinity. But if you look a little closer, you will see, well, first of all, I notice the smoothed diamond shape of that's containing these 2 what look like wrenches that are crossed, and then in the center there's sort of a center form where they all converge. But when I look at the structure that is around those 2 crossed wrenches, I don't even know if that's the proper name, but that's what I'm calling them, the 2 tools that look like tools that are also in a cross shape. But when you look behind that, you will see that this thing that I'm describing as my first impression was very structural and triangular and metal-like, you'll actually see that there's a softness to it. And that it appears to, when you look a little closer, and particularly when you're able to look, at it large, which I am here, you're able to see the layers, very ribbon-like and almost ethereal, but very tightly woven and beautiful, quite beautiful. And there's also a curvature to the structure behind the 2 wrenches that cross. And what I notice the more I look at it is that there's a concave quality to it, and it's almost nest-like. And there's a soft place to land, if you will. And that's the first thing I want to say, that as we are creating a new society and moving forward into a new era rich in love, there is a softness. I always say we are held in an infinite grace, and there is a place where we can rest. We don't have to, be frantically running around. As a matter of fact, that is the old way we did it, isn't it? It was all hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, and set your mind to something, and, and do it. And, if you believe it, you can achieve it, but you got to put the hard work in and effort, and all of that, is valuable, and it's good. I'm certainly not suggesting there will be no effort, but this particular diamond dimension to me feels, when I look at the C symbol, very much that it's we are building, we are constructing, we are restructuring, and there we are creating a solid structure, but we're doing so within that new context, which we talked about yesterday, a new environmental context and a new cosmic context. And so while the first wheel, the wheel of reordering, was a reorientation, an environmental reorientation, or a reorientation of environment, the wheel of restructuring is a societal reorientation. But what's different here is that instead of simply building structures for whatever good it is we want to do, or problem it is we want to solve or fix, instead of that approach, we are beginning from this soft center of a beautiful, beautifully woven nest. And so there is, again, a new context for how we will move forward into building this new society. And it is important that we take the time to really feel into what is the true structure that is supporting us at the most basic fundamental levels. And many of us have looked at that in our own lives and found that it is a disconnection from God, from spirit, from source, from the very breath of life that runs through us, it's just unfathomable. It's at times when you just kind of look at what we create for ourselves, and how great it seems to be going, when we've forgotten the most important thing or lost our connection to it. And I speak to this personally because for me, as I've mentioned elsewhere, the faith in God and life has been the one thing that I've always had. And yet there is, in my own life's experience and the way I'm wired, there's a constant disconnect happening. And I've had to really, really reorient my world, my life, my day, and at times every moment. And I do not do it perfectly, but reorient and to return to what matters most, to the light and the life and the love that I am at my core, and that is the life with which I am infused, and the very nature of my cells in my body, and the what keeps my heart pumping, and what brings me to life is that life. And so that is at the core of this wheel of restructuring. And that's definitely a whole new way forward if we really kind of look at how the various systems in our society were constructed in the past. When I look back to the image, there is this central flower, really. When you zoom in on this, again, it looks very masculine and steely when you look from afar, but the more you really look carefully, the more you see the life emanating from that center. And so there is that life, ever-giving life that's at the center of this nest, or flower or ribbon-like structure that is supporting everything that we create. In addition to that life, and it's like the lotus that is always blooming, and the many petals. It's like that sort of thing, because it's almost like the life itself is replicating, and yet it's a solid structure. But what is the word? There's a permeability to it, but I can't think of the word, but it's like flexible. So there is an adaptability. Let's use that word. There's an adaptability to not only the approach we take, but also that is woven into the structures we will create. An adaptability and a relatedness, because as you notice, no piece of this particular diamond dimension is separate from the other. And within the tool-like structures, there is a channel, and there is reservoir for resources. And that's something we're clearly seeing where there's been a lack of that at times. And also there is an opening to the outer world and a protected opening to the source. And if you look at that, that protected opening is the same on each of these tools, and it is very reminiscent of a bird's beak, a baby bird that is trusting life for its sustenance and its supply. So those things are going to be very important as we move forward in creating a new society rich in love. So I'm going to put more notes below on this and each of the C symbols so that you can read either here on YouTube beneath the video or on the blog lifedailywithdawn.com, and look for the blog. You'll be able to read more about each C symbol, but what I really want to invite you to do is to look for yourself and see what speaks to you, because we each have because of our own life's experience, we each are going to have a unique way of seeing, and there are things embedded in this image and in these seed ideas that are seeds for life and the passage to a new society. There are openings for each of us, and the intent here is that you are able to activate within you that which you have to bring forth in this time. And one other thing I want to mention is that the triangular structure is woven throughout this, and there are, from the outer edges of the tools, these very steady stair-step-like layered triangles that they're rooted, they're grounded here and now, and yet again this every structure is connected to the center, which is opening up in a beautiful way. It's like opening and then closing back to for the protection of that core life force that runs through everything. So I'll stop there for today, and I will see you again tomorrow for the third of the 5 wheels within a wheel. Thanks so much. So as soon as I turned off the recording, I just got a flood of additional information that I want to share with you. So quickly, the Wheel of Restructuring is actually suggesting a new framework for the foundations that we build from here and the kinds of systems and structures that will best serve the good of all. And so there are actually 8 patterns of potential that are characteristics or qualities of the life-giving systems and structures that are suggested by this framework for foundations. And again, just think about that, a new framework for foundations. So before we even get to building the foundations, and that's what I'm shown has happened in the past, is that we are so busy, so quick to rush and build that we forget what the true framework from which we are building is, and it is love. And so here are the 8 patterns of potential suggested by the Wheel of Restructuring. 1. Systems and structures that receive nourishment from the source of love. 2. Systems and structures that conserve and create a reservoir for reserve. 3. Systems and structures that connect the flow of life to a particular direction or area of focus in society and become a channel of blessing. 4. Systems and structures that are woven into the fabric of society and place a high value on connectedness with other connections to society. 5. Systems and structures that do not consider themselves to be the solution, but rather a part of a strong and connected society rooted in love. 6. Systems and structures with a clear path to the resources they share and services they offer to society. 7. Systems and structures that are not fixed and inflexible, but flower and find their form from the true vine that nourishes and cleanses them. And 8. Systems and structures that liberate, allowing themselves to be informed by and learn from life and creation and the common cry for freedom.